Do you ever sit there and feel like you wish we were in a plural relationship, and like where are you at with all that right now? I've had some concerns about whether or not having one wife would be enough for him, because he has been living and used to this other way for so long. And so it's vulnerable. It's so vulnerable to be at.
Family, faith, and the price of love. Welcome to a journey inside one of America's most talked about families, the Browns from Sister Wives. What began as an ambitious dream of unity and plural marriage slowly unraveled into heartbreak, separation, and soul-searching. In this series we'll revisit their story, from the hopeful early days to the emotional confrontations that changed everything. Where love multiplied, faith guided their steps, and the seeds of future conflict were quietly sown. Do you ever sit there and feel like you wish we were in a plural relationship? The question floats over gentle background music, soft, almost hesitant. It's a question that would define the Brown family for decades. Kody Brown didn't grow up in a polygamist household. He was raised on a windswept ranch in northern Wyoming, far from the faith he would eventually adopt. But in his early 20s, Kody's father converted to a fundamentalist Mormon group that embraced plural marriage. Curiosity led Kody to the same church, and soon he was drawn into a lifestyle few outsiders truly understand. When Kody met Mary, his first wife, the idea of plural marriage wasn't a far-off theory. It was already a natural part of their conversations. Mary's father had 5 wives, and Kody often talked faith with him. Love blossomed quickly, and within months Kody and Mary married. For Kody, this first marriage opened a door to something bigger than a typical union. He once joked, "If you're good with one marriage, they figure you'll be good with 2. I hoped they'd think I'd be good with 4. Soon after came Janelle and then Christine, each relationship bringing new energy and new complexity. "I just fell in love," Kody said of those early years. "And then I fell in love again. And again." Their family grew rapidly. Mary and Kody had 1 child, Janelle, and Kody welcomed 6, Christine added 5 more, with a 6th on the way. They lived in a single, sprawling home designed by another polygamist, complete with 3 connected apartments. Separate living spaces maintained autonomy, yet hallways and shared meals kept them united. To the children, all siblings were simply brothers and sisters. The idea of different mothers hardly mattered. Family dinners became a cherished routine. About 3 times a week we all eat together, someone recalls as the camera pans across the busy kitchen. A blessing is said, voices overlapping in a familiar, comforting chaos. This was the Brown family's golden age, a bustling household powered by faith, love, and an unshakable belief that their way of life was both sacred and sustainable. But behind the warm dinners and laughter, a quiet pressure was building. Kody juggled a demanding career in advertising sales with the need to give each wife and every child personal attention. He even kept a careful schedule to ensure fairness, 3 nights a week away from the main house, rotating so each wife had her time. "Sooner or later someone's going to complain," he admitted. "I don't feel like I'm getting a fair amount of time or a fair shake here." It was an early hint that balancing 4 relationships, let alone dozens of children, was no simple feat. As the years passed, the Browns welcomed a new presence, Robin. A divorced mother of 3, she captured Kody's heart during a chance meeting at a friend's house. Courting her required long drives and overnight visits, sometimes leaving Mary, Janelle, and Christine uneasy. "Here you are replacing your family with Robin and her kids," one wife confessed. Yet they all understood that plural marriage meant opening their hearts, even when it hurt. The courtship was slow but deliberate. Kody brought teenage daughters along on visits so his children and Robin's could bond. "In my lifestyle, wives are comfortable with another wife," Kody explained, "but they're not comfortable with a girlfriend." When Robin eventually joined the family, the Browns' world expanded again. Her children, Dayton, Aurora, and little Brianna, were welcomed into the fold, and the family looked forward to a future filled with even more love. From the outside, it might have seemed like a flawless system, faith supporting family, family supporting faith. but cracks were forming. Managing the emotional needs of 4 wives, balancing time among 18 children, and hiding their lifestyle from a world that often judged them, it all took its toll. Kody once confided his fear of employers discovering his secret. "I've been very afraid of ever having an employer understand where I'm coming from, simply out of fear of their prejudice against my lifestyle," he said. This quiet anxiety shadowed the family's public smiles and festive gatherings. Still, for many years the Browns projected unity. Holidays were boisterous, with kids running through interconnected hallways. The wives, Mary, Janelle, Christine, and later Robin, shared childcare duties seamlessly. "The kids are all ours," they often said, and it was true. They were raising a single, sprawling family. Yet even as laughter echoed through their large home, subtle tensions hinted at future storms. The balance of affection, the strain of time, the sacrifices required of everyone, these were not problems that could be solved with love alone. Every love story has a turning point. For the Browns, the arrival of Robin was both a celebration and a challenge, a new heart added to an already complex rhythm. Robin's presence was a revelation for Kody. She was warm, patient, and shared his religious convictions. But her courtship brought a new dynamic the family wasn't prepared for. Mary, Kody's first wife, had been the one to introduce Robin to the family, hoping another sister wife would strengthen their faith and household. Yet Mary soon felt the sting of jealousy she thought she'd outgrown. "I thought I was ready," she admitted in a confessional. "But suddenly I wasn't sure where I fit anymore." The children, too, sensed a shift. Some embraced Robin with open arms, others watched warily as their father's attention stretched thinner. Kody's carefully crafted schedule, nights divided equally among wives, began to fray. Long drives to see Robin, late-night talks, and the excitement of a new relationship often upset the fragile balance. Christine, pregnant at the time, felt it acutely. "When he's with Robin, it's like the rest of us don't exist," she said, voice breaking. Janelle, usually the calmest, confessed, "It's hard not to feel second or third place." Kody, meanwhile, struggled to reassure everyone. "I love each of you," he insisted. "This isn't about choosing favorites. It's about building the family God wants." But the words didn't erase the lonely nights or the subtle resentments brewing beneath polite smiles. As if internal strains weren't enough, the Browns took a daring step, sharing their lives on national television. TLC Sister Wives debuted, drawing millions of viewers, and the watchful eye of law enforcement in Utah, where bigamy remained a crime. Overnight, their private struggles became public fodder. Strangers debated their morality. Neighbors whispered. The family faced the threat of investigation simply for living their faith. "We went from being hidden to being headlines," Mary recalled. "It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once." The cameras captured their dinners, their arguments, their laughter, but also magnified every tension. Small slights became storylines. Quiet disagreements. Under mounting pressure, the Browns made a bold decision: leave their beloved Utah home and start over in Las Vegas, where laws were less hostile to polygamy. The move was chaotic. Four separate houses, miles apart, replaced the single interconnected home that had kept them close. For the first time, the wives lived in distinct spaces. "We went from knocking on each other's doors every day to needing a car ride just to say goodnight," Janelle said. The physical separation deepened emotional gaps. Kids missed impromptu playdates with siblings. Late-night kitchen chats between sister wives became rare. Kody tried to keep the family spirit alive with scheduled dinners and group activities, but the spontaneous intimacy was fading. In Las Vegas, ambitions grew as fast as frustrations. Each wife explored new independence, businesses, personal goals, hobbies once postponed. Mary pursued her dream of finishing college courses. Janelle focused on a career in real estate. Christine found joy in community theater and homeschooling projects. Robin, still the newest wife, managed a bustling household with her own children and a new baby. While these pursuits empowered them, they also highlighted different visions for the future. The once united family rhythm began to sound more like four separate melodies. Christine sensed it most. "I joined this family believing we'd always be together, one big home, one big heart," she said quietly. "But here, in Vegas, I sometimes feel like I'm raising my kids alone." Kody noticed, too. He felt the weight of keeping 18 children and 4 wives emotionally connected. His once light-hearted confidence gave way to occasional frustration. "Sometimes," he admitted, "I feel like a man stretched across 4 worlds, and none of them know the whole of me." Amid the glitter of Las Vegas lights, the Browns faced questions they'd never dared voice aloud. Was plural marriage still serving everyone's happiness? Could love truly be endless when time, energy, and attention were finite? Christine, in particular, wrestled with these doubts. Though she cherished her children and believed in her faith, she wondered if Kody's love had shifted irrevocably. "I don't need to be first," she confided to a friend. "I just need to matter." The move to Las Vegas was meant to preserve their way of life, but it had exposed fragile truths. Proximity had once masked their differences, distance now forced them into the open. By the time the Browns settled into their separate Las Vegas homes, they were no longer the same family that once gathered nightly around a single kitchen table. The children were growing older, forging their own identities. The wives were redefining themselves outside the shared marriage. And Kody, still committed to the principle of plural love, struggled to keep everyone under one spiritual roof. In confessionals, each wife spoke of both gratitude and uncertainty. "We've built something amazing," Mary said, "but it's harder than anyone will ever understand." Janelle added, "We've always believed love could stretch forever." Maybe it can. But sometimes it feels like it's stretching thin. As cameras faded to black on another season, one thing was clear: the Browns had reached a turning point. The question was no longer whether they could share a life, it was whether they could stay truly united as that life evolved. Every family has growing pains, but for the Browns, the weight of plural marriage began to feel less like growth and more like fracture. Years in Las Vegas passed. The Browns smiled for cameras, celebrated birthdays, and filmed confessionals that kept fans hooked, but inside the 4 separate houses, the center of gravity was shifting. Christine, once the family's bright-spirited peacemaker, felt a subtle chill. Kody's visits to her home grew shorter and more businesslike, quick check-ins about the kids, polite small talk, and then he was off to another wife's house. The warmth that once filled their long evening chats seemed to evaporate. "I just don't feel like a wife anymore," Christine whispered during one late-night filming. "It's like I'm a single mom who occasionally hosts her husband." Her words weren't bitter, they were weary. For years she'd carried the dream of a household where every wife felt equally loved. Now she wondered whether the dream itself was the problem. When Kody proposed moving the entire family from Las Vegas to the mountain town of Flagstaff, Arizona, he pitched it as a fresh start. He imagined wide-open land where he could build one massive house to reunite everyone. "It's time to bring us back together," he declared. But to the wives, it felt like another upheaval, another move that meant selling homes, uprooting children, and starting over in a place where winter snows could be as harsh as the emotional weather inside their marriage. Mary worried about finances. Janelle worried about jobs. Christine feared another round of isolation. Still, they followed, hoping maybe Kody was right, that the crisp mountain air could breathe life into old bonds. Reality proved tougher. Instead of the single dream home Kody envisioned, the family ended up in 4 separate houses again, scattered across Flagstaff. Snowy roads and busy schedules made casual visits rare. "We're further apart than ever," Christine admitted. "It's like the move just highlighted how separate we really are." Meanwhile, Mary faced her own heartbreak. Her only child, Leon, left for college, leaving an empty nest and a quiet house. Mary's loneliness deepened when she became the target of an online catfishing scandal, a painful episode that shook her confidence and further strained her bond with Kody. "I feel like we're polite strangers," she confided on camera. "There's no partnership left." Though this was Mary's personal crisis, the ripple touched everyone. The wives watched one another grappling with doubts they'd rarely dared voice. For Christine, the breaking point came quietly but firmly. She began asking herself hard questions. Why am I always the one compromising? Why do my needs feel like an afterthought? The more she reflected, the clearer it became. Kody's affection seemed centered on Robin. Christine noticed how his visits there stretched longer, how his eyes softened when Robin entered the room. "I don't want to be just a body in this marriage," Christine said during a confessional, her voice steady. "I want partnership. I want romance. I want to feel chosen." Then came the COVID-19 pandemic, a stress test for families everywhere, and for the Browns, a near catastrophe. Kody insisted on strict isolation rules. He limited which wives and children he would visit, citing health concerns and the need to protect the larger household. But the rules weren't evenly applied. Christine watched as Robin's home received more visits, more attention. Her own children went weeks without seeing their father. "It's like we don't exist," she said, holding back tears. "He says it's about safety, but it feels like rejection." Tensions erupted in filmed family meetings. Some kids challenged their dad, some wives quietly simmered. The pandemic didn't create new problems, it exposed every crack that already existed. One of the most shocking moments came when Kody confronted Christine about the state of their marriage. His words were raw and unforgettable. "You wanted to renegotiate a relationship with me," he told her. "But you wouldn't even have a decent one with them. It was always about the kids. That was the easy part, just the knife and the kidney over all these years and the sacrifices that I made." The phrase, "knife in the kidney," cut deeper than Christine expected. To her, it wasn't just a metaphor, it was a confirmation of years of unspoken pain. "I can't keep pretending," she said afterward. "This isn't a marriage anymore. This is a duty, and I don't want duty. I want love." Christine began quietly planning a new life. She found a rental home in Utah near some of her adult children. She started imagining mornings without waiting for Kody to show up, evenings filled with the laughter of grandkids rather than cameras and schedules. "I deserve a relationship where I'm loved and chosen," she told her sister wives. "And if that's not here, then I have to go find it." Her decision was not impulsive. It was the slow conclusion of years of compromise, disappointment, and self-reflection. Janelle offered quiet support.